Sophia sat at the large dining table, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the edge of her coffee cup. The table was cluttered with half-eaten dishes and the remnants of a late family lunch. Her parents, Margaret and John, were deep in conversation about her younger sister, Emily, who was still living at home despite being in her late 20s. Sophia couldn't help but listen to the familiar exchange, the words of their concern cutting through the air. You know, John, Emily's been talking about starting her own business for months now, but she's never serious about it. Margaret sighed, her voice tinged with concern. She still doesn't have her life together. John sighed, glancing at Sophia. And what about you, Sophia? You've been so busy with work lately. Don't you think it's time you came home more? Your mother and I don't see enough of you. Sophia's grip tightened around her cup, the porcelain cool against her fingers. She had heard this line countless times over the years. I'm not abandoning you, she said quietly, her voice steady but tired. I have responsibilities. You know how demanding my job is. Her mother shook her head. I'm not saying you're abandoning us, but you've been so wrapped up in your career lately. What about family? We need you here. Sophia, you're always running off to solve everyone else's problems. The words stung more than she wanted to admit. She had spent the past few years balancing work, caring for her parents, and constantly rushing to Emily's side whenever her sister created yet another emergency in her life. When did I lose myself? Sophia thought, her mind racing as she stared at the half-empty coffee cup. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll be here more often, she said, trying to suppress the frustration building in her chest. The words felt like a lie, but she said them anyway. She had promised to come home more often before, but every time she did, the demands of the family seemed to grow. Her father, who had been quietly sipping his coffee, finally spoke up. Your mother's right, Sophia. We don't need you to save the world, but we do need you here, with us. Sophia stood up abruptly, her chair scraping harshly against the tiled floor. I need to get going, she muttered, barely looking at them. She had an important presentation at work later that afternoon, but that wasn't what made her leave. It was the suffocating weight of the expectations, the constant feeling that her own needs were secondary to her family's. Before she could walk out of the kitchen, Emily walked in, her face a mask of feigned innocence. Where are you going so fast? Aren't you staying for dessert? Sophia froze, the tension in her shoulders growing. Of course. Here it comes. Emily had that look on her face, the look she wore every time she needed attention. Sophia had spent years being her sister's emotional crutch, always running to her side whenever Emily's life fell apart. I have work to do, Sophia said, not bothering to hide the annoyance in her voice. She turned to leave, but Emily stepped into her path, blocking the door. I need your help, Sophia. I'm really struggling with everything right now, Emily said, her voice trembling just enough to make Sophia's guilt spike. Emily, Sophia started, but Emily cut her off, her eyes wide with fox desperation. No, listen, I'm serious. I don't know what to do anymore. You're the only one who understands. Emily's lower lip quivered as she took a step closer to Sophia. Sophia bit back the words she really wanted to say. She didn't have time for this. She had worked hard for years to establish her career, and yet every time Emily made one of her crises a priority, Sophia found herself slipping back into the role of the family's caretaker. Emily, I don't have time for this, she said, her voice low. You need to handle your own life for once. I can't keep solving your problems. Emily's face fell, but she quickly masked her disappointment with a strained smile. I understand. It's just so hard sometimes. Sophia's heart twisted. She wanted to reach out and comfort her sister, but she couldn't ignore the resentment that bubbled up every time Emily played the victim. Why am I always the one who has to sacrifice everything? She squeezed past Emily, heading for the door. I'll see you later, she muttered, not giving her sister the chance to respond. As she stepped out into the cool air, the weight of her decision settled heavily on her chest. She was tired of the constant emotional manipulation, tired of being the one everyone turned to. But what could she do? Every time she tried to assert her own boundaries, it felt like she was being torn in half. Her family needed her, but at what cost? Sophia drove to the office in silence, her mind swirling with conflicting thoughts. She pulled into the parking lot and quickly entered the building, determined to focus on her work. But even there, the pressure of her family's expectations lingered in the back of her mind. Her new boss, David, greeted her as she entered the office. He was tall and sharp, with a no-nonsense attitude that made her feel both respected and challenged. How's everything going, Sophia? He asked, his eyes scanning her work as she settled into her desk. It's going well, she replied, forcing a smile. Just a bit distracted today. David raised an eyebrow but didn't press her for details. Well, if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. You've been doing a great job. The presentation this afternoon will be important, so just stay focused. Sophia nodded, grateful for his understanding but also frustrated by how much of her energy had been siphoned away by her family. Maybe I could just let them go, let them figure things out on their own. As the day went on, Sophia found herself slipping into her work with more focus. With every task she completed, her confidence grew. This is what I'm good at, she thought, allowing herself to be immersed in the rhythm of her job. But even as she gave herself to the work, a part of her couldn't shake the guilt that lingered in her chest. She had left her family behind again, left Emily's latest crisis unresolved. By the time the afternoon presentation rolled around, Sophia was sharp, confident, and more certain of her capabilities than she had been in a long time. David was impressed, and the client seemed satisfied. As the meeting concluded, Sophia felt a small but significant shift inside her. Maybe I can do this, have a life outside of my family. But as she packed up her things, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Emily. I don't know what to do anymore. Sophia, please, help me. I need you. Sophia hesitated, staring at the screen. She wanted to help, she always did. But this time, something inside her snapped. I need to live my own life, she thought. I need to stop being everything for everyone else. She put the phone down, her heart pounding. She didn't respond to Emily's message. Not this time. Sophia walked out of the office, feeling lighter than she had in years. For the first time in a long while, she was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, her worth wasn't defined by her family's expectations. The buzzing sound of Sophia's phone pulled her out of a deep focus as she reviewed the presentation slides for her upcoming meeting. She reached for it, her eyes skimming over the screen, already bracing herself for the familiar message. Sophia, it's your father. We need your help. Mom's in the hospital. Please, come right away. Her heart dropped into her stomach. Hospital, the word echoed in her mind, and for a moment, she felt lightheaded. She didn't need to ask for details. She knew how these situations went. Her mother had a chronic health condition, but she'd been stable for months. But whenever something went wrong, it was always a crisis. Sophia stood up quickly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Her hands were shaky as she typed back a quick message. I'm on my way. The meeting was supposed to be a big moment for her. She had worked tirelessly for weeks, preparing every detail to secure a major contract for the firm. She had even been promised a spot in the upcoming leadership program if she succeeded. But now, her mother was in the hospital, and there was no question family always came first. She had learned that lesson too well over the years. She grabbed her purse and jacket, then bolted out of the office. The weight of the decision already settling heavily in her chest. The drive to the hospital felt like an eternity. Sophia's mind raced. But it wasn't just with worry for her mother. There was a gnawing sense of regret that tugged at her. She had sacrificed so much of her career for her family over the years. Every time an important opportunity came up, something would happen: a family emergency, a problem with Emily, or another crisis with her parents, and once again, her career took a backseat. She arrived at the hospital, practically running through the corridors. Her father was pacing outside the emergency room, his face pale and lined with stress. He looked up as she approached, his expression softening when he saw her. Sophia, you here? He said, relief flooding his voice. Your mom, she's stable, but the doctors want to keep her overnight for observation. Sophia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Is she awake? Can I see her? Yeah, but she's tired. I think it's best you don't overwhelm her right now. Sophia nodded, though the lump in her throat felt like a rock. She followed her father down the sterile hospital hallway. The smell of antiseptic thick in the air. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed softly, adding to the unnerving silence. Inside the room, her mother was lying in bed, a pale face framed by the white sheets. Her eyes flickered open when Sophia walked in, a faint smile appearing on her lips. Sophia, her mother whispered, her voice weak. You came. I'm here, Mom, Sophia said, walking to her bedside and taking her hand. Her mother's skin felt cold against her own. Don't worry about me, Margaret said softly. I've been through worse. You're working so hard. I don't want to be the one to hold you back. Sophia squeezed her hand, her chest tightening. It's not like that, Mom. I'll always be here for you. Her mother gave a small, tired laugh. You don't need to sacrifice your future for me, sweetheart. I'm just an old woman. Your career, your life, that's what matters now. But that was the problem. Sophia couldn't seem to separate the two. Every time she tried to pour forward with her career, something would happen to drag her back. Usually her mother's health or Emily's endless string of problems. The family's needs always seemed to take precedence over her own ambitions. Don't think like that, Sophia said quietly. I don't mind being here. I don't want you to get worse, okay? I know, dear, Margaret said softly. But you have to think about yourself sometimes too. Don't let everything slip away for us. Sophia sat in silence, holding her mother's hand, feeling a dull ache in her chest. She hated seeing her mother like this, but at the same time, she felt frustrated. Every time she tried to step out and build something for herself, the world seemed to pull her back in. Hours later, after her mother had fallen asleep, Sophia found herself sitting in the hospital cafeteria with her father. The fluorescent lights overhead made everything feel more depressing than it needed to be. She hadn't had a proper meal all day, and now, the exhaustion from the emotional roller coaster was starting to catch up with her. You're doing too much, Sophia, her father said as he stirred his coffee. His voice was low, almost conspiratorial. You've got to take a step back. Sophia's fork clinked against her plate as she set it down, meeting his gaze. What do you mean? He looked around the cafeteria, as though checking if anyone was listening. Our career. The way you're working yourself to the bone is going to cost you. You've given up so much for the family already. I know, Dad, she replied, her voice tight, but I'm not just going to abandon everything for you guys. You both mean the world to me, and I can't just stop living my life because I have responsibilities here. You have a good career, Sophia, he said, his voice growing softer. But you need to realize that if you're not careful, you're going to lose yourself. You give, and in the end, there won't be much left for you. Sophia swallowed hard. His words pierced through her like a sharp blade. She had heard the same thing countless times over the years, but it never hit this hard. She had worked so hard to get where she was, and yet, her family always found a way to pull her back into their orbit. I'm trying, Dad, she said, her voice breaking slightly. I really am, but it feels like no matter what I do, I can't get ahead. I can't make anyone happy, and I don't know what to do anymore. Her father sighed and placed his hand over hers. Just promise me you'll think about yourself, too. You're more than just the person we lean on. Sophia nodded, her throat tight. She wanted to promise him, but she didn't know how. Every time she tried to break free, it felt like the world was pulling her back in. That night, Sophia lay awake in the small hospital room, her mind replaying the conversation with her father. The words "you're more than just the person we lean on" echoed in her mind like a haunting refrain. She glanced at her phone. A message from her boss, David, flashed across the screen. The presentation tomorrow is crucial. We need your game. Her stomach twisted. She had worked so hard for this moment. She had put everything into the proposal for the new client. And now, after everything that had happened today, she wasn't sure she could pull it off. She didn't even know if she wanted to anymore. The room felt small, the with unspoken frustrations. She wanted to be there for her mother, but she also wanted something more, something of her own. Could she keep giving up her career for every family emergency? Could she keep sacrificing herself? Sophia stared at the ceiling, the weight of her choices pressing down on her. Tomorrow, she would have to make a decision. She couldn't keep doing this forever, but for now, she closed her eyes, trying to block out the noise in her head and find a few moments of peace. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows of the cafe, casting soft, golden beams on the worn wooden tables. Sophia sat at a corner table, her fingers gently tracing the rim of her coffee cup, her mind elsewhere. She had been thinking a lot about her career, about her mother's health, and about the conversation she'd had with her father the previous night. There was a tightness in her chest, a sense that no matter how hard she tried to move forward, there was always something or someone pulling her back. Just as she was about to take a sip, her phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from Emily. Sophie, I need your help. Something's happened, and I don't know what to do. Can you meet me now? Sophia stared at the screen for a moment. The words "something's happened" hung there like a warning. Emily always had a way of making everything sound like a catastrophe. Her sister was perpetually in crisis mode, whether it was an issue with her latest business venture, a bad breakup, or the thousand other problems she created for herself. Every time, without fail, Sophia dropped everything to help. She sighed and typed a quick response. Where are you? I'm at the apartment. Can you come right now? Emily replied almost immediately. Sophia hesitated for a moment before getting up, the weight of the decision settling heavily on her shoulders. Why do I always let her pull me in like this? She thought. I just can't say no to her. The apartment Emily shared with her roommate was on the second floor of a crumbling building on the edge of downtown. The hallway smelled faintly of stale beer and old carpet, a stark contrast to the colorful, bohemian decor inside the apartment. It was always cluttered, always chaotic, just like Emily. Sophia knocked softly on the door before entering. Emily was sitting on the couch, her head in her hands. Her eyes were puffy and red, and her face was a mask of distress. What happened? Sophia asked, walking over to her sister, her voice soft but cautious. Emily looked up at her with wide, tear-filled eyes. I don't know what to do anymore, Sophie. I feel like everything is falling apart. I can't keep going like this. Sophia sat down next to her, the familiar feeling of anxiety creeping into her chest. She had seen this before, the cycle of emotional manipulation. Emily always made her problems feel urgent, her needs paramount, drawing Sophia in like a moth to a flame. And once again, Sophia found herself trapped in the storm of her sister's turmoil. What happened this time? Sophia asked, trying to keep her tone calm. I just got a call from the landlord, Emily said, her voice trembling. They're raising the rent again. I don't know how I'm going to pay it. And then my business. She paused, wiping her eyes. I don't know what to do, Sophie. It's all too much. Sophia exhaled slowly, leaning back against the couch. She had heard this story before, and she could already feel the resentment bubbling up inside her. It wasn't just the rent increase. It was the constant crisis Emily created for herself and expected others to solve. Every time, without fail, Sophia ended up as the rescuer. Emily, she said gently, you need to start taking responsibility for your own life. You can't keep relying on me every time something goes wrong. Emily's head snapped up. her expression incredulous. What do you mean? I need your help. You're the only one who understands. I understand, Sophia said, her voice quiet but firm. But you need to stop putting everything on me. I have my own life, my own responsibilities. I can't fix everything for you. You have to start making choices and dealing with the consequences. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes, and she shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. But Sophie, I don't have anyone else. I don't know how to do it by myself. Sophia's chest tightened, but she pushed the feeling aside. She had been here too many times before. It was always the same Emily playing the victim, pulling at her heartstrings, trying to guilt her into solving her problems. And every time, Sophia ended up caving in. I'm not saying I don't want to help, Sophia said, her voice softening, but you need to start taking responsibility. I'm not going to keep sacrificing my life for yours. Emily sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. I don't know what to do without you, Sophie. You're all I've got. The words hit Sophia like a punch to the gut. She didn't know how to respond. She wanted to be there for her sister, but she also wanted to break free from the endless cycle of emotional dependency. She wanted a life of her own, a career of her own, free from the constant pull of family demands. Emily, you're capable of doing this on your own, Sophia said, her voice trembling slightly. But I can't do it for you anymore. The silence between them stretched on, thick and uncomfortable. Emily's shoulders shook with quiet sobs, and for a moment, Sophia felt a pang of guilt, but it quickly turned into frustration. Why do you always do this? Sophia finally asked, her voice edged with anger. Why do you always make everything seem like a crisis? Why do I always have to drop everything and come to your rescue? Emily stopped crying and looked at her, her face scrunching in confusion. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the way you manipulate me. Emily, Sophia said, her tone sharp now. Every time something goes wrong in your life, you make it feel like the end of the world. You always come to me, acting like I'm the only one who can help. And I give up everything for you. But I can't keep doing this. I can't keep sacrificing my career, my life, just to fix your problems. Emily looked at her in stunned silence, her mouth slightly open. You think I'm manipulating you? She asked, her voice small, almost hurt. Sophia sighed, rubbing her temples. I don't want to feel like this, but every time I try to live my own life, you pull me back in. You need to stop expecting me to solve everything. There was a long pause, and for a moment, Sophia thought Emily might say something in return, but instead, she just sat there, staring at the floor, her face a mask of hurt. I'm sorry, Emily said finally, her voice small. I didn't mean to make you feel like that. Sophia closed her eyes, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness. I don't know if you even realize what you're doing, Emily, but you can't keep depending on me for everything. You have to start standing on your own 2 feet. Sophia left the apartment feeling drained, her mind still racing. The conversation with Emily had been inevitable, but it didn't make it any easier. She felt like she was constantly walking a tightrope, trying to balance the love and guilt she felt for her sister with the desire to carve out a life for herself. Every time she thought she was getting closer to achieving something for herself, Emily would show up, pulling her back into the same emotional tug of war. The sun was setting as Sophia walked down the street, the sky painted in shades of pink and orange. She couldn't help but think about everything she had sacrificed over the years, her career, her personal dreams, all for the sake of her family. It was exhausting. As she reached her car, she stopped and looked up at the sky, letting the cool evening air fill her lungs. I can't keep doing this, she thought. I can't keep losing myself for everyone else. She got into her car, the weight of her decision settling heavily on her shoulders. She had to find a way to break free from the cycle. She had to find a way to put herself first for once. Sophia sat at her desk, staring at the glowing screen of her laptop. The company presentation that she had been preparing for weeks was finally ready. But as she reviewed the slides one more time, her mind kept wandering back to the events of the past few days, the hospital, her sister Emily's emotional manipulation, and the constant tide of family obligations. A wave of exhaustion washed over her, and she rubbed her temples in frustration. Why do I keep putting myself last? She thought. I'm always helping everyone else. But who's here for me? Her phone buzzed, and she glanced at the notification. It was from her boss, David. Sophia, the client meeting is at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Be prepared to present. This is a big opportunity for you. Don't mess it up. Sophia's stomach tightened. She had been preparing for this moment for so long. But now, faced with the weight of her family's demands and her own insecurities, she wondered if she could pull it off. She hadn't felt this overwhelmed in a long time. The last few days had been a blur. Her mother's health scare, Emily's constant emotional demands, and the unrelenting pressure at work. She had been caught in a whirlwind of obligation, trying to juggle everything but feeling like she was falling short in all areas. She took a deep breath and stood up, trying to push aside the nagging thoughts. She needed to focus. This presentation could be the breakthrough she had been waiting for in her career. But with everything on her plate, she wasn't sure she had the energy or the confidence to succeed. The next morning, Sophia arrived at the office early, hoping to get a moment of peace before the storm of the client meeting began. The glass walls of the conference room reflected the bright city skyline, and the sleek, modern furniture gave the space a professional but sterile feel. She was greeted by her team: David, the project manager, Clara, the senior analyst, and Ben, the marketing director, who all seemed eager but also tense. The stakes for this meeting were high, and everyone was on edge. David, ever the professional, gave Sophia a nod of acknowledgement as she entered the room. "We'll count him on you, Sophia. We've put in a lot of work, but you're the one who has to seal the deal. Show them what you've got." Sophia's heart raced. The pressure was mounting, and her mind was still clouded with the emotional weight of the past week. She nodded, forcing a smile, and took her seat at the head of the table. "Let's get started," she said. Her voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside her. The meeting began with a formal presentation of the company's new marketing strategy for the client. Clara and Ben presented their sections confidently, outlining the data and projections that supported their plan. Sophia's turn came last, and as she stood up to present her portion, she could feel her palms sweat. She glanced around the table at the faces of her colleagues, then at the client representatives sitting across from her. "Good morning," she began, her voice a little shaky but clear. "Today, I'm going to present a strategy that will not only increase brand awareness but also drive memorable results for your company." She launched into the presentation, outlining the strategies and the data that backed them up. The more she spoke, the more her confidence grew. She had worked hard on this, and the words seemed to come naturally. As she moved through the slides, Sophia noticed the client representatives nodding, their expressions growing more and more interested. By the time she finished, there was a silence in the room. The air felt thick with anticipation. David leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with approval. "Excellent work, Sophia," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "This is exactly what we needed. I think we've got a real chance with this client." Sophia felt a rush of relief wash over her. For the first time in days, she felt like she had accomplished something. She had faced the pressure, the doubts, and the distractions, and she had delivered. But as the meeting came to a close and the client representatives stood to leave, Sophia's phone buzzed again, and she glanced at the screen. It was a message from Emily. "Sophie, I need you to come over. Something's wrong. I don't know who else to turn to." Sophia's heart sank. She had just finished an intense meeting, and now her sister was pulling her back into another crisis. She closed her eyes for a moment, her mind racing. "I can't keep doing this," she thought. "I can't keep sacrificing my career every time Emily needs me." She excused herself from the meeting, promising David that she would follow up later. As she stepped out into the hallway, she felt the weight of the decision pressing on her chest. Should I go? Should I keep helping her? Or is this the moment I finally set boundaries? Sophia arrived at Emily's apartment a short time later, her mind still conflicted. The moment she stepped inside, she could sense the tension in the air. Emily was sitting on the couch, her eyes red, her face blotchy from crying. "Sophie, I don't know what to do," Emily said, her voice trembling. I lost my job. They let me go, and now I can't afford the rent. I don't know what to do. Can you help me?" Sophia took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check. She could feel the familiar tug of guilt, but this time, she wasn't going to let it control her. She couldn't keep letting Emily's crisis dictate her life. "Emily," Sophia said, her voice calm but firm. "You've been through this before. You always seem to find a way out. But you can't keep expecting me to fix everything. You need to take responsibility for your own life." Emily's face crumpled, and she burst into tears. "I'm sorry, Sophie. I don't know how to do it without you. I need you." Sophia felt a pang of guilt, but this time, she held her ground. "You need to start standing on your own 2 feet. Emily, I can't keep bailing you out every time something goes wrong. You have to learn to take care of yourself." There was a long silence between them, and Sophia could see the hurt in her sister's eyes. But deep down, she knew this was the right decision. She couldn't keep living for everyone else. She had to start living for herself. "I'm not abandoning you," Sophia said softly, "but you need to start making your own choices. You can do this. I believe in you." Emily didn't say anything, but Sophia could see the realization starting to settle in. It was painful, but it was the only way forward for both of them. As Sophia left Emily's apartment, she felt a strange sense of peace. It wasn't easy, and it hurt, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had made a choice that was best for her. She had taken a step toward reclaiming her life, toward putting herself first. That night, as she sat at her desk in her apartment, she received a message from David. "The client is on board. We got the contract. Great job, Sophia. You earned this." Sophia smiled as she read the message, a sense of pride swelling inside her. The hard work had paid off. For once, her sacrifice had been worth it, and for once, she was starting to feel like she could breathe again. She closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair, staring out the window at the city lights. There was still a long way to go, But this was the start. She had set boundaries. She had made a choice for herself, and it felt damn good. The weeks following the client meeting were a blur of success. Sophia had secured the contract, and her work was being praised by her colleagues and superiors alike. The weight that had been hanging over her, the constant tug-of-war between her career and family obligations, seemed to lift slightly. She had finally taken control of her life at least. That's what she told herself. But success came at a price. It was a Friday afternoon, and Sophia was sitting in the small cafe near her office, sipping her coffee and reviewing emails on her laptop. The cafe had become her quiet retreat, a place where she could escape from the frenetic energy of the office and the chaos of her personal life. As she typed up a report for an upcoming presentation, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. It was a message from her mother. "Sophie, your father is asking about you. He wants to know when you're coming by for dinner. Please, it's been too long." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. The request was innocuous enough, but it still carried the weight of unspoken expectations. She hadn't seen her parents in weeks. She'd been so consumed with her work and the ongoing issues with Emily that she hadn't found the time. But the pressure of her father's need for family time was always a looming presence. They expected her to drop everything whenever they called, just like Emily did. She stared at the message for a long moment, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "I can't keep doing this," she thought. "I can't keep sacrificing my peace for everyone else's demands." At that moment, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was from Emily. "Sophie, I need you. Can you come over, please? I don't know who else to ask." Sophia closed her eyes, her chest tightening. It was the same cycle all over again. Emily had lost her job, and now she was back in crisis mode. The familiar pain of guilt set in. Every fiber of her being wanted to ignore the message, to finally set the boundaries she had been promising herself to set. But the years of habit, the constant fear of disappointing her sister, of letting her down, kept pulling her back. One last time, Sophia thought, just to make sure she's okay. Then I'll set boundaries. For real. She tapped a quick reply. "I'll be there in an hour." When Sophia arrived at Emily's apartment, she was greeted by the familiar chaos. Clothes were strewn across the floor, half-empty coffee cups were scattered on the counters, and the air was thick with the smell of takeout food. Emily was pacing back and forth, her phone pressed to her ear, her face a mask of anxiety. "I can't believe they did this to me," Emily muttered as she ended the call. She looked up, noticing Sophia standing in the doorway. Her face instantly softened, and she rushed over, throwing her arms around her sister. "Sophie, I'm so glad you're here. I just don't know what to do." Sophia stiffened, then slowly hugged her sister back, her heart heavy with resignation. Emily's hugs always felt like an emotional anchor, pulling her deeper into the vortex of responsibility. She had been here before. "Emily, what's going on?" Sophia asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the weight of everything she was feeling. Emily pulled away and sat down on the couch, her eyes wide with panic. "I don't have any money left. My savings are gone, and I don't know how to pay the rent. They won't even give me a reference for a new job because they said I was let go for performance errors. I don't know what to do. Sophie, I'm so screwed." Sophia sat down beside her, taking a deep breath. "I understand. But Emily, you need to start figuring this out for yourself. I can't keep coming to your rescue every time something happens." Emily's face crumpled, and her voice wavered. "But Sophie, you're the only one I can count on. You're the only one who's always been there for me." Sophia closed her eyes, feeling the weight of those words pressing down on her. "She's doing it again," she thought. "She's manipulating me with guilt." "Emily, I've helped you so many times," Sophia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not saying I won't help you, but you can't keep putting everything on me. I have my own life, my own responsibilities now. I can't drop everything every time you need me." Emily's face twisted with hurt. "So that's it. You're just going to abandon me now that you've got your fancy job and all your success. I don't know how to do this without you." Sophia felt a surge of frustration, but she held it back, taking another deep breath. "It's not about abandoning you. It's about you learning to stand on your own 2 feet. I can't be your safety net forever." Emily looked away, her eyes filled with unshed tears. The silence between them stretched, thick and uncomfortable. Sophia's heart ached, but she knew this was the right decision. "Look, Emily," Sophia said softly, "I can help you find resources, maybe help you look for a new job, but I can't keep fixing everything for you. You need to start taking control of your life. I've been there for you, but now it's your turn." Emily stared at her sister, her face a mixture of disbelief and anger. "You're being so hard. Sophie, you're just going to leave me to figure it all out by myself. How can you be so cold?" Sophia's breath caught in her throat. The words stung, but she didn't let them show. "I'm not being cold, Emily. I'm being honest. And sometimes, honesty is the hardest thing to hear." For a moment, Emily didn't say anything. Then, quietly, she spoke. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to push you away. I don't know what else to do." Sophia exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. "I'm here to help, but you need to take responsibility for your choices. I believe you can do it. I just need you to believe it too." Later that evening, after a quiet, awkward dinner, Sophia left Emily's apartment with a strange sense of relief. It hadn't been easy, but for the first time, she had set a boundary that felt right. It had hurt her, yes, but she knew it was the only way forward for both of them. As she walked to her car, she received a text from David. "We've got a meeting with a no client next week. I want you to take the lead on it. This could be a huge opportunity for you." Sophia smiled. It was the validation she had been craving, the affirmation that her hard work was paying off. But even as the excitement bubbled up, she couldn't help but feel the familiar pull of her family's expectations, threatening to overshadow her success. Back at her apartment, Sophia poured herself a glass of wine and sat down at her desk. She opened her laptop and reviewed the details of the no client meeting, but her mind kept drifting back to her conversation with Emily. "Why do I always feel like I'm being pulled in different directions?" she wondered. "How do I stay true to myself without letting everyone else's needs consume me?" She closed her laptop and stood up, walking over to the window. The city lights twinkled below, and for a moment, she allowed herself to just breathe. "I can do this," she thought. "I can have both my career and my boundaries. I just need to keep moving forward, one step at a time." As she stared out at the horizon, Sophia knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was on the right path. Her path. The morning after her conversation with Emily, Sophia woke up with a lingering heaviness in her chest. The awkward silence that had settled between them after she set her boundaries haunted her. But there was also a sense of clarity, a small but undeniable shift that had occurred within her. She had stood up for herself, and despite the emotional toll, it felt like the first step toward truly prioritizing her own life. However, the challenges of maintaining her boundaries were far from over. As Sophia walked into the office that morning, she was greeted by her boss, David, who immediately pulled her aside. "Sophia, I'm glad you're here. I need to talk to you about the client meeting next week," David said, his tone all business. "We've been asked to do a last-minute presentation, and I want you to lead it. This could be a game changer for us." Sophia's heart rate quickened. She had been leading meetings and projects for weeks now, but this one felt different. She could feel the weight of David's expectations bearing down on her. "I'm ready," she said, keeping her voice steady despite the surge of nerves. "What's the client's focus?" David glanced at his notes, flipping through the pages. "It's a major tech company looking to expand into new markets. They want a proposal that speaks to their future growth, innovation, and global presence. No pressure, right?" Sophia nodded, trying to push aside the wave of anxiety that was rising within her. "This is what I've worked for," she thought. "I can do this." But just as she was about to ask more questions, David's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and sighed. "Sorry, I have to take this. It's the CEO," he said quickly, stepping away from her. Sophia stood there for a moment, feeling the walls of the office close in on her. She had made it this far, becoming a trusted member of the team, earning her colleagues' respect, but now the stakes were higher than ever, and she couldn't help but wonder if her family would be waiting for her to fail. Later that day, Sophia sat down at her desk, reviewing the client's portfolio. She was already crafting a strategy in her mind, outlining the key points she needed to address in the upcoming presentation. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from her mother. "Sophie, I haven't heard from you in a while. Your father wants to know if you're coming for dinner tonight. Please don't make us wait any longer." Sophia frowned, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Her mother's message as always carried a sense of urgency, a quiet insistence that she drop everything for family. She felt the familiar tug of guilt, but she knew she couldn't go tonight, not with the presentation looming ahead. "I'm not going to let this derail me," she thought, deleting the message and setting her phone aside. Her determination lasted all of 10 minutes before the phone buzzed again. This time, it was Emily. "Sophie, I'm really struggling. Can we talk? I don't know what to do." Sophia's stomach twisted. Not again, she thought. Emily had been leaning on her heavily for the past few weeks, and the constant cycle of emotional dependency was starting to take its toll. "I can't keep sacrificing my career for this," Sophia told herself, but as much as she tried to resist, she couldn't bring herself to ignore the message. She felt a knot in her chest, a pull toward her sister that was hard to shake. Maybe just a quick call, she thought. "I'll tell her I'm busy after that." At home that evening, Sophia sat on her couch with her phone pressed to her ear. Emily was on the other line, her voice shaky and uncertain. "Sophie, I don't know what to do. I've been looking for a new job, but it's so hard. Every time I get close, something goes wrong. I just don't know if I can handle it anymore. I feel like I'm sinking." Sophia closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. She could hear the desperation in Emily's voice, but the years of rescuing her sister were starting to catch up with Sophia's emotional reserves. She was running on empty, and no matter how much she cared for Emily, she couldn't keep giving everything she had. "Emily, I get that it's hard," Sophia said, trying to keep her voice gentle. But you need to start taking control of your own life. I can't fix everything for you. I'll help as much as I can. But now it's time for you to figure this out on your own. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Sophia could almost hear the hurt in her sister's silence. The sting of rejection. She knew Emily felt abandoned, but it was the only way she could grow. I'm not abandoning you, Sophia continued. I'm just giving you the space to find your own way. You can do this. You have to believe that. I don't know, Emily said quietly. I just don't know. Sophia's heart ached, but she knew this was the right choice. I believe in you, Emily. You're stronger than you think. The next day, Sophia was back in the office, staring at the presentation slides on her screen. The meeting with the tech client was just hours away, and despite her nerves, she was ready. As she reviewed her notes one last time, her phone buzzed again. It was her mother. Sophie, we're having dinner at PM. Please don't make us wait any longer. Your father is getting upset. Sophia's grip on the phone tightened. The message was subtle, but there was an underlying demand there, an expectation that she would always drop everything for the family. It was the same dynamic that had shaped her entire life, family first, no matter what. But today, Sophia wasn't going to give in. She wasn't going to sacrifice her progress for this. She took a deep breath, her finger hovering over the reply button. Then, without a second thought, she typed, I can't make it tonight. I have an important meeting. I'll catch up with you soon. She hit send, setting the phone down with a mix of triumph and guilt. This was the hardest part, finding the balance between her responsibilities and her own needs. But she was starting to realize that the only way forward was by setting clear boundaries. The meeting with the tech client went better than Sophia could have hoped. She presented the proposal with confidence, seamlessly answering questions and guiding the conversation in the right direction. As the meeting wrapped up, the client seemed impressed, nodding in approval. Sophia, this is exactly what we were looking for, one of the clients said, shaking her hand. We'll be in touch soon, but we're very interested in moving forward with your proposal. Sophia felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had done it. She had successfully led the presentation, and it was a turning point in her career. But as the adrenaline faded, she also felt the weight of the decision she had made the night before. She had chosen her career over family, and part of her still struggled with that. Later that evening, Sophia sat in her apartment, the quiet settling around her like a blanket. She opened her phone, scanning through messages. There were a few from her colleagues congratulating her on the successful presentation, but no messages from her family. They're probably upset, she thought, her stomach twisting. But she knew deep down that she had made the right decision. She couldn't keep living for others. She needed to start living for herself. She stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the city below. The lights twinkled like stars, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace. This is just the beginning, she thought. I've got this. Sophia's days had fallen into a new rhythm, a balance between work and her personal life that she was beginning to enjoy. The tech client had sat on, and her team was buzzing with excitement. But as the days passed, the sense of accomplishment started to feel like a distant echo, overtaken by a more pressing reality, the relentless tug of her family's expectations. It was Monday morning, and the office was bustling as usual. Sophia was sitting at her desk, reviewing the final revisions for a proposal she had been working on for the past week. The atmosphere in the office was electric, a mix of energy and anticipation as everyone geared up for the next big project. But as much as she tried to focus, her thoughts kept drifting back to her parents and to Emily. Why hasn't she called? Sophia wondered, her fingers hesitating over the keyboard. Emily hadn't responded to her last message, the one where Sophia had told her she couldn't keep fixing her problems. She wasn't sure if it was the guilt from that conversation or the fear of her sister spiraling again. But something inside her still felt uneasy. Before she could lose herself in the worry, her phone buzzed. It was from her mother. Sophie, we haven't seen you in so long. Your father is upset. Please, come to dinner tonight. It's important. Sophia's chest tightened as she read the message. She hadn't spoken to her parents since she skipped their dinner 2 nights ago, and she knew that this message wasn't just about dinner. It was about the unspoken pressure, the constant pull to be the perfect daughter, to meet their expectations, no matter how much she had to sacrifice. She looked at the screen for a moment, her finger hovering over the reply button. The old guilt was creeping back in, guilt that she had become so absorbed in her own life that she had begun to neglect them. But then the memory of her conversation with Emily resurfaced. I can't keep doing this. I have to choose myself. Taking a deep breath, she typed back a message. I'm really sorry, but I can't make it tonight. I have work to finish up. I'll call you soon. Though, the response was immediate. You always have work. Sophie, your father is getting very tired of this. Sophia's heart sank, and she stared at the words, the frustration in her chest building. I'm doing my best, She thought, why can't they understand that? But she didn't respond. Instead, she set the phone aside, refocusing on the proposal in front of her. She knew that she had made the right choice. Still, the weight of her family's expectations pressed on her, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of doubt. Later that afternoon, Sophia was in a meeting with David and a few colleagues, discussing the next phase of the tech project. The team was making solid progress, and David seemed pleased with the direction things were headed. The clients had been impressed with her initial proposal, and now it was time to build on that momentum. Sophia, you've done an excellent job so far, David said, leaning back in his chair and glancing at the notes on his tablet. I'm confident that we'll land this deal, but we need your expertise for the final page. You'll lead the team in front of the clients next week. Can I count on you? Sophia's heart skipped a beat. Her first major client presentation had been successful, and now she was being trusted to lead the next one. This was her moment, her chance to prove herself, but there was a gnawing feeling in her stomach, the pull of her personal life, her responsibilities, and the weight of the choices she had made. You can do this, she reminded herself. This is your career. You've worked too hard to let anything derail you. Absolutely, Sophia replied, her voice steady despite the swirling thoughts in her head. I'll handle it. David smiled, a look of approval in his eyes. I knew I could count on you. We all in this together. After the meeting, Sophia headed to the cafe downstairs, hoping to clear her mind before diving back into work. As she sipped her coffee, she stared out the window, watching the world go by. The city was alive with energy, a constant pulse of movement and noise, and in that moment, she couldn't help but feel like an outsider, caught between two worlds: her career, where she was starting to thrive, and her family, where she always felt like she was falling short. Her phone buzzed again, breaking her reverie. This time, it was from Emily. Sophie, I'm really struggling. Please, I need you. Can you come over? Sophia's stomach churned. Emily had sent several similar messages over the past few days, but she had resisted the urge to rush over. She had tried to set boundaries, to focus on her own life, but the pull of her sister's distress was hard to ignore. She stared at the message for a long time, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. I can't go back to this, she thought. No, I have to stay focused. I have to put my career first. But despite her resolve, something in her cracked. The guilt, the fear of abandoning her sister, overpowered her. She sighed deeply and typed a response. I'll be there in 30 minutes. When Sophia arrived at Emily's apartment, she found the door slightly ajar. She knocked softly before pushing it open. Stepping into the dimly lit space, the air was thick with the smell of stale pizza and unwashed laundry. Emily was sitting on the couch, her arms wrapped around her knees, looking small and lost. Sophie, she said quietly, not even looking up when her sister entered. I didn't know who else to turn to. Sophia's heart clenched at the sight of her sister, so vulnerable, so overwhelmed. She walked over and sat beside Emily, placing a hand on her shoulder. I'm here, Sophia said gently. What's going on? Emily looked up, her eyes red from crying. I don't know how to fix this, Sophie. I've been trying to get my life together, but everything's falling apart. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm so scared. Sophia felt the old pain of guilt. She had wanted to stay strong to enforce the boundaries she had set, but the sight of Emily in pain cracked through her resolve. You don't have to do it all on your own, Sophia said softly, but you have to start somewhere. You can't keep waiting for someone to come and save you. Emily sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. I don't know where to start. I don't know how. Sophia took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Okay, let's break it down. You're not going to fix everything overnight, but you can start by looking for a new job, and we'll figure out the finances. I'll help you, but I can't keep doing everything for you. Emily looked at her sister, a mixture of relief and sadness in her eyes. I don't want to be a burden to you anymore. Sophia's throat tightened, and she reached for her sister's hand. You're not a burden, Em. I just need you to start taking responsibility for your life. I can't carry it all. Emily nodded slowly, her shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. I'm sorry. I've just been so lost. Sophia squeezed her hand. I know, but we'll get through this together. As the evening wore on, Sophia stayed with Emily, helping her sort through job listings and offering advice where she could. The night felt long and heavy, but it was a start. Emily had taken the first step toward rebuilding her life, and for the first time, Sophia felt like they were moving forward together. When Sophia finally left, it was late. The streets were quiet, the city streets bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. As she walked back to her car, she felt a mix of exhaustion and accomplishment. She had helped Emily without sacrificing her own boundaries, and that was a win. Back at her apartment, Sophia sank into the couch, her phone buzzing noisy. Sophia woke up the next morning to the sound of her phone vibrating on the nightstand. She blinked groggily, reaching for the device before her eyes had even adjusted to the light. The first thing she saw was a message from Emily. Her sister had texted her again, just as she had every morning for the past few days. I'm not doing well, Sophie. Please, I need you to help me figure this out. I'm scared I'm going to lose everything. Sophia felt a familiar weight settle in her chest, the conflicting emotions swirling as she read the message. She wanted to help, wanted to be there for Emily, but there was a limit to how much she could give. Her career was taking off, and she had finally started to feel like she was on the right track, finding balance in her life. Yet, no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't shake the feeling that Emily was slowly pulling her back into the cycle of dependency that had defined their relationship for years. How much longer can I keep this up? Sophia thought, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The phone buzzed again, another message, this time from her mother. Sophie, when are you coming over? Your father insists we see you tonight. He's very upset. The text was as demanding as ever, another reminder of the suffocating expectations her family placed on her. She hadn't replied to her parents in days, and she could already feel the looming guilt pressing on her. It was always the same with them. Work was never a valid excuse. They demanded her attention, and when she didn't give it, they found ways to make her feel like an inadequate daughter. Sophia sighed and tossed the phone onto her bed. She needed space from everyone and everything. She had no idea how to manage both her career and the weight of her family's needs anymore. By mid-morning, the office was buzzing with activity. Sophia had managed to block out her personal life for a few hours, focusing solely on the project in front of her. She sat in a meeting with her team, discussing strategies for the next client page. The energy in the room was intense, but in a good way. Everyone was passionate about the project, excited about the progress they'd made. David was particularly pleased with her recent contributions, and that made her feel like all the hard work had been worth it. You're really starting to shine, Sophia, David said with a smile, glancing at her across the table. This next page is going to be a game changer, and I want you to lead it. We need you to pull everything together for us. Sophia nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. The pressure was mounting, but for the first time, it felt exhilarating. She had worked so hard to get here, to earn the trust of her team, and now she was being given the chance to prove herself on a bigger scale. I won't let you down, she replied confidently. David gave a brief nod of approval. I know you won't. I'm counting on you. After the meeting, Sophia found herself sitting at her desk, her mind still racing from the excitement of the conversation. The work was piling up, emails to answer, documents to revise, calls to return, but for once, she didn't mind. She was finally starting to feel like she belonged. The anxiety that had been a constant companion in her life seemed to fade, replaced by a surge of confidence. But then her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call. She glanced at the screen and saw that it was from Emily. I can't ignore this anymore, she thought, picking up the phone. Hello, she said, her voice steady, though her insides churned. Sophie, I don't know what to do. Emily's voice crackled with panic. I'm trying to keep everything together, but I can't. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Can you come over? Sophia closed her eyes, pinching the bridge of her nose. I can't do this again, she thought. Her heart wavered. She wanted to help Emily, but she had reached a breaking point. She had to set boundaries. She had to protect her own peace. Emily, Sophia began, her voice gentle but firm. I can't come over right now. I'm in the middle of a big project, and I need to focus. But I'm here for you, okay? We've talked about this before. You need to start making changes on your own. I can't fix everything for you. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Sophia could hear Emily's shallow breathing, the way her sister was holding herself together just enough to get through the moment. I'm sorry, Emily finally whispered. I just don't know what else to do. I know you don't, Sophia replied softly, but you have to try. I'm always here to support you, but you have to take responsibility for your own life. I believe in you. There was another long pause, but finally, Emily spoke again, quiet this time. Okay, I'll try, but I don't know how. Sophia's heart ached, but she knew this was the right choice. Just take it one step at a time. I'm proud of you for trying. The call ended, and Sophia sat there for a moment, staring at the screen. Her hands shook slightly, and she felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. It was a relief to have set that boundary, but the guilt still lingered. She couldn't help but feel like she was abandoning her sister, even though she knew she wasn't. She had to focus on her own life for once, but it didn't make it any easier. By the time the work was over, Sophia had managed to push through her emotions, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She knew she needed to get some distance from her family, but the lingering guilt gnawed at her. She walked home in a daze, the streets bustling with people but somehow feeling empty. When she reached her apartment, she tossed her keys onto the counter and sank onto the couch, letting out a long breath. Is this really the right thing to do? She wondered. Her phone buzzed again. It was a message from her mother. We're very disappointed in you, Sophie. You've been so focused on work lately. Your father wants to talk to you tonight. Please don't ignore us again. Sophia closed her eyes, taking a moment to breathe before replying. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just focused on an important project. I'll talk to you soon, she had said, and immediately felt the weight lift slightly, though it was replaced with an odd sense of emptiness. Why does this feel so hard? She wondered, rubbing her temples. She couldn't help but think back to the conversation with Emily. Am I doing the right thing? Later that evening, she met with David and the rest of the team to discuss the final page for the tech client. The meeting went smoothly, and Sophia's contributions were met with praise from everyone in the room. David was impressed, and his trust in her seemed to grow with every word she spoke. As the meeting wrapped up, David pulled her aside. Sophia, he said with a smile, I just want to say, you're doing an amazing job. I'm glad you're with us. Keep it up. Sophia felt a rush of pride, but also an undercurrent of guilt that threatened to pull her down. She had worked so hard to get to this point, to earn the recognition of her colleagues. But the personal sacrifices were starting to take their toll. Thank you, David, she replied with a smile. I won't let you down. When she finally got home, Sophia sat on the couch, staring at the empty apartment around her. For the first time in days, she felt completely alone in the sense that no one was waiting for her to fix their problems. No one was pulling at her for attention. And yet, the silence felt deafening. She missed the closeness of her family. But she also knew that stepping back was the only way she could find her own peace. She picked up her phone again. The guilt writing once more. Another message from her mother. Don't forget about us, Sophie. We need you. She put the phone down, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. This is just a part of the process, she thought. I need to keep moving forward. I can. Sophia had always been good at pretending. She had perfected the art of hiding her emotions behind the calm, composed exterior. But today, as she sat in her car, staring out at the busy city street, she couldn't pretend anymore. The weight of everything, the pressure from her family, the demands of her job, the constant tug between her career and her personal life had finally caught up with her. She had spent the past few days working tirelessly on the tech client page. Every hour had been consumed with research, strategy, and meetings. The team was depending on her to deliver, and she couldn't afford to let them down. But every time she thought about her parents, every time she thought about Emily's latest message, the gnawing guilt returned. Am I doing the right thing? She wondered. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was from Emily. Sophie, I'm at the end of my rope. I need you, please. I can't do this without you. Sophia clenched her jaw and stared at the message for a long moment. Her heart broke for her sister, but a familiar feeling of frustration rose up. She had already given so much, already bent over backwards to help Emily. Yet, it was never enough. It never ended. I can't keep doing this, she thought, her grip tightening on the steering wheel. She typed a response, her fingers moving faster than she could think. I can't come over right now. Emily, I'm in the middle of something important. You need to take responsibility for your own life. I can't keep fixing everything for you. She hit send, then immediately regretted it. She looked at the message, the harshness of her words settling in. Emily needed help, and yet here she was, setting boundaries that felt like walls. Before she could second-guess herself, her phone buzzed again. It was from her mother. You've been avoiding us, Sophie. Your father and I are worried. Please, we need you tonight. Come over for dinner. The familiar knot of guilt tightened in her stomach. She hadn't been to her parents' house in over a week, and every time they reached out, it felt like another reminder of how much she was feeling them. Why does this feel so suffocating? She thought, feeling her chest tighten. She sat there for a moment, the weight of it all pressing down on her. The demands of her family, the responsibilities of her job, and the unspoken expectations that she had carried for years were finally starting to feel like too much. That evening, the office had emptied out, leaving only a few diehards still glued to their desks. Sophia was at her desk, staring at her computer screen but barely seeing it. Her mind was elsewhere, on Emily, on her parents, on everything she was expected to be. How did I end up here? She wondered. Her phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a message from David. How's everything going with the page? I trust you're on track. Let me know if you need anything, Sophia quickly replied, putting on the mask she had worn for years. Everything's going great. I've got it under control. Thanks for checking in. She set the phone aside and let out a long breath. The facade was getting harder to maintain. The truth was, she didn't have everything under control. She was barely holding it together. Just then, her colleague Emma poked her head into her office. Hey, Sophia, do you need help with anything? You look like you're burning the candle at both ends. Sophia looked up, forcing a smile. I'm fine, Emma. Just trying to wrap up some things before the end of the week. Emma didn't seem convinced. She stepped into the room, her gaze softening. You don't look fine, though. You've been going full throttle for weeks. Maybe you should take a break. Sophia shook her head. I can't. I have to keep pushing. The pitch is important, and we're so close to sealing the deal. Emma frowned, clearly not satisfied with the answer. Sophia, I know you're doing great work, but I've noticed how stressed you've been. You can't keep this up. Everyone needs a break eventually. Sophia's chest tightened at the concern in Emma's voice. Why does everyone think I need a break? She thought. But instead of snapping, she forced herself to speak calmly. I appreciate you looking out for me, Emma, but I'm fine. I just need to finish this. Emma hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her words. Okay, Just don't forget to take care of yourself too. No deal is worth your health. Sophia didn't respond immediately. She was too busy focusing on the flood of emotions threatening to break through. I can't afford to fall apart. Not now. I'm finally left. And Sophia was left alone in the silence, the words echoing in her mind. No deal is worth your health. She picked up her phone and stared at the message from her mother. We need you tonight. For the first time, Sophia didn't feel the usual twinge of guilt. Instead, a strange sense of calm washed over her. Maybe I've been ignoring the wrong things, she thought. Maybe it's time to stop trying to please everyone. Later that evening, she found herself standing outside her apartment building, looking at the city skyline. The lights shimmered in the distance, casting a soft glow over the streets below. It was a beautiful view, one that had always calmed her, but tonight it felt distant. She couldn't escape the sense that she was at a crossroads. She walked to her car, her mind still racing. She had spent years chasing approval, first from her parents, then from her co-workers, and now from herself. But at what cost? When she reached the car, she paused, her hand on the door handle. The urge to go to her parents' house, to make everything right, was still there. But something inside her resisted. She wasn't sure if it was strength or stubbornness, but she knew she couldn't go back to that place. Not tonight. Instead, she drove to a nearby park, her headlights cutting through the darkness. The park was quiet, almost eerily so. And as she parked the car and stepped out, the cool night air hit her face. She stood there for a moment, letting the silence wash over her. In the distance, she could hear the faint sound of children playing, their laughter echoing in the stillness. Sophia watched them for a while, feeling a pang of longing for something simpler, something that didn't require so much effort. I need a break, she thought. I need to stop pretending everything's fine when it's not. She sat down on a bench, her hands resting in her lap. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. The weight on her chest wasn't gone, but for the first time in days, it felt lighter. Maybe this was what she needed all along, just a moment to breathe. An hour later, she was back at her apartment, sitting in front of her computer. The night was growing late, but she felt strangely calm. The constant pressure she had felt from her family, from her job, from herself, somehow, it didn't seem as overwhelming as it had earlier in the day. She had taken a step back, and it had helped. She stared at the screen for a moment, then picked up her phone and sent a message to Emily. I'm sorry, I've been distant. I'm here for you, but you have to start taking control of your own life. I can't keep fixing things for you. I'll always support you, but you have to start making the changes you need. It wasn't easy to send, but it felt like the right thing to do. The phone buzzed in response almost immediately. I understand. I'm trying. I'll do better. Sophia felt a wave of relief. Maybe, just maybe, Emily was starting to understand. For the first time in a long while, Sophia felt like she had made the right decision. She didn't have to be everything for everyone. She could take care of herself, too. The next morning, Sophia stood in front of her mirror, staring at her reflection. She didn't know what she had expected to see, but it wasn't this. She was tired, her eyes were shadowed, and the lines of stress that had been creeping into her face were now unmistakable. She had barely slept the night before, her mind still racing over the decisions she'd made. Setting boundaries, letting go of the suffocating expectations, was harder than she had imagined. But something had shifted in her. There was a clarity now that hadn't been there before. The weight of responsibility that had always hung over her was lighter, and though she felt guilty for not giving in to her family's demands, she also felt freer. She was ready for change. Sophia took a deep breath, forcing a smile on her lips. This is for me, she reminded herself. I have to start focusing on my own growth, not just theirs. At work, the energy was different. The team had been preparing for the big client pitch, and the mood was tense but charged with anticipation. Sophia arrived a little earlier than usual, finding the office still quiet except for a few early risers tapping away at their keyboards. She walked to her desk, her steps deliberate, her posture straighter than it had been in a long time. David walked by and paused when he saw her. Good morning, Sophia, you're here early. He gave her a smile. I like that. Sophia smiled back, though it was more out of habit than genuine enthusiasm. Morning, just wanted to make sure everything's ready for the pitch. I'm feeling good about it. David raised an eyebrow. That's what I like to hear. You've really stepped up lately. Keep it up. And I'm sure we're going to win this deal. Sophia nodded, a rush of pride flooding her chest. David's words meant more to her than she'd ever admit. They were validation she had spent years seeking from others but was now starting to find within herself. By the time the meeting room filled with the team, Sophia was already deep in preparation. The projector was set up, the proposal slides were ready, and everything was in place. She had spent the last few days refining her presentation, putting in hours of research and fine-tuning every detail. This pitch was important not just for the company, but for her. It was her opportunity to prove to herself that she could balance her career and her personal boundaries without losing sight of either. David took the front of the room, his commanding presence immediately grabbing everyone's attention. All right, team, Let's get started. We all counting on this page to seal the deal with these clients. Sophia, why don't you take the lead? Sophia stood up, her heart pounding. The eyes of her colleagues were on her. But instead of the usual anxiety, she felt a strange sense of calm. This was her moment. She had prepared for this. She could do this. She clicked the remote, and the first slide appeared. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to show you not just how we can deliver results, but how we're the right partner for your business long term. As she spoke, her voice grew more confident. She could feel the room's energy shift, the tension easing as she settled into her role. Every statistic, every projection, flowed smoothly from her lips. Her colleagues nodded in approval, exchanging looks that told her they were impressed. She wasn't just doing her job, she was excelling. After the meeting, there was a palpable sense of relief in the room. The team gathered around, congratulating one another on the job well done. David came over to her, his face lighting up. Sophia, that was fantastic. You really knocked it out of the park today. This pitch is as good as ours. Sophia's smile was genuine this time. The weight lifted off her shoulders. Thanks, David. It felt right, you know, like I finally found my rhythm. David chuckled. You've definitely found it. Don't forget this moment. You've proven to everyone in this room and to yourself how capable you really are. Her heart swelled at his praise, but she couldn't help the tiny pang of doubt that still lingered. Is this enough? She wondered. Am I enough? Later that afternoon, as she was sitting at her desk going over some notes, her phone buzzed. The message was from Emily. Sophie, I'm trying to get my life together. I'm not perfect, but I'm taking steps. Thank you for your support. I know you're right. I can't keep depending on you. Sophia stared at the screen, the words sinking in slowly. It was the first time Emily had acknowledged the change, the first time she had taken responsibility for her own actions. Sophia's heart softened, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of peace with her sister. She quickly typed a response. I'm proud of you, Emily. Just keep moving forward. You don't need to do it all at once. Just take it one step at a time. Sophia put the phone down and leaned back in her chair. For the first time in what felt like forever, she wasn't carrying the burden of other people's expectations. Emily was beginning to take ownership of her life, and Sophia had finally found the courage to take ownership of her own. That evening, Sophia was at home, sitting on her couch with a cup of tea. The apartment was quiet. The only sound the soft hum of the city outside. She had been looking forward to this moment all day, the moment when she could finally sit down and reflect. Her phone buzzed again. It was a message from her mother. Sophie, your father and I want to talk to you. We're still concerned. Please come over tomorrow. We miss you. Sophia stared at the message for a long time, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She knew she couldn't keep putting this off, but she also knew she wasn't ready to give in to their demands. Not yet. After a few moments, she began typing. I'm working on something important right now, Mom. I'll talk to you soon. She hit send and immediately felt a rush of relief. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. For the first time, she had spoken her truth without guilt. She had set a boundary and she had done it on her own terms. The next day, the team received the news they had been waiting for. The pitch was successful. The client had signed the contract, and the deal was officially theirs. Sophia felt a sense of pride swell inside her. All of the hard work, the late nights, the sacrifices had paid off. She had proven herself. David called her into his office. Sophia, I wanted to personally congratulate you. You were a key player in this deal, and I'm really proud of your work. Thank you, she said, smiling. I'm just glad it all came together. You should be proud. You're a valuable asset to this company, and I think you have a bright future ahead of you. Let's keep this momentum going. Sophia nodded, feeling her chest tighten with emotion. This was it, the moment she had been working toward, not just the success at work, but the success of taking control of her life. She had set boundaries. She had taken ownership of her choices, and now she was reaping the rewards. Later that night, she stood on her balcony, looking out at the city skyline. The lights flickered in the distance, casting a soft glow over the streets below. Sophia felt the quiet hum of contentment wash over her. She had made it. She had found balance, and for the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. This is just the beginning, she thought, her heart light. I'm ready for whatever comes next.